That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you could not prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
I'm Cecil, and I hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, "That don't sound right," send us a comment. You're one of us. It's a very controversial episode that we will be in trouble for.
Well, I mean, really, it's only controversial at the Camel City studio and at the annex. And it's not even controversial yet until our wives hear this podcast because they're both out of town. Welcome back to another episode of That Don't Sound Right, a podcast about talking. We're your co-hosts. I'm Peter Billman.
I'm Cecil Davis.
And we're just trying to have a conversation without Googling or fact-checking or making these chairs creak all over the place. Those things can so easily kill the conversation.
They can. We need to replace the equipment in the Camel City studio.
Well, speaking of equipment, I think that's probably what we're going to talk about tonight, aren't we?
We're talking about expanding That Don't Sound Right. We really want to get some feedback from our listeners. So we'll tell you the conversation that happened after dinner tonight. So we enjoyed a nice dinner out with daughter, and then we went over to a friend's house.
We were hoping to install a brake cylinder, but the brake cylinder didn't come through in the mail, right? Not a brake cylinder, a master cylinder.
Master cylinder. And so it probably didn't come today because there was a huge outage.
Yes, crowd strike. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So it was delayed. So we were looking forward to putting this in a 1980 Chevrolet Corvette with the Daytona package, which means it has a little different nose to it.
Right. It doesn't have your typical pop-up headlights. They actually shine through some clear lenses that are at the same angle as the front of the body.
And it's got some fake vents on the top of the curve of the cylinder.
I mean, that's what a Stingray has. Right?
Yeah.
It looks like gills.
Yeah, super cool. It's a T-top.
Oh, I forgot. Yep, it's a T-top. It is a T-top.
Yep. It's a great car. But
now, if you haven't been familiar, we've talked about this car before in episodes 75 and 76. The name of the first episode was "Fiberglass is the Future," and the second one was "Wait, There's More."
We had the opportunity to get this car on the road. And so we think all it needs is this master cylinder for the brakes. We'll put that in, bleed the brakes, get the tires back on it, and see if she'll crank.
Right. And drive down the road.
Oh, and drive down the road.
Now, why are we doing this?
We were doing it for the fun of it. I mean, it's a great car, and this car may go on the market in the near future. But that's what has caused our conundrum tonight.
And what's the conundrum? What's keeping you up at night, Cecil?
What has happened is we started talking about this car again. I would actually, every time I passed this house, I would think, that Corvette is sitting in that garage. And I would think about, buying it, helping get it fixed up.
I mean, it's a hot looking car.
Absolutely.
If you've never been, from a distance, you look at a Corvette, you're like, okay, that's an interesting, hot looking car.
Yeah.
But when you get up to it, when you get close to it, the lines and the flow.
Yep. It is, and this is a two-seater.
Yeah,
they may all be two-seaters, but
this thing's the nose of this car is it's all engine. Yeah. The nose of this car is so long.
Yep.
This is just a hot rod rocket ship of a car. Now, in reality, it may not be that fast because 1980s tech wasn't all there. It's got a 350-inch cubic inch engine, a 350 Chevy. Yep. I'm sure it could be tuned to be very fast, but they haven't been known to be that great in handling, so you kind of want to drive it in. But you get up close to this car, and you can picture yourself in this
car. So that's where the problems come in. Is we initially were just doing it to get it ready for market so it can be sold.
Right. The owner wants to sell.
Yeah. And so now, the TSR remote pit crew went over to take care of this. But the problem is there's opportunity for That Don't Sound Right to buy it. So here's what we've discussed over the last couple hours is, should That Don't Sound Right become an LLC?
Yep. Or some kind of incorporated entity.
And buy this car and wrap it with That Don't Sound Right and just drive it between the two of us.
Yes, right. Well, I mean, that was kind of the end game. I mean, first it started out of you just going to buy it.
Well,
Right. That was one option.
I broached the subject of selling my car, which I love dearly. And
now, tell me about this car that you love dearly.
So it's a 2004 Honda Accord.
2004.
Yeah, it's got almost 300,000 miles on it.
300,000 miles, four-door.
284,000.
Sedan.
Yeah, sedan,
Okay.
Silver.
Silver.
There's somewhere around 2 to 3 million of them on the road.
Right. It's been stolen before.
Been stolen.
You can listen to that. You can listen to that episode. We talked about
Gone in
that.
60 Seconds
Right.
episode. But I do love this car. So I thought about selling it and buying the Corvette. Because we could get it at a discount. You and I.
You can get it at a discount. It doesn't have to be both of us.
Right.
I mean, one of us can get it at a deep discount.
And so I thought about just making it my primary car.
Your daily driver.
My daily driver.
Right.
Which you and I both know would be an insane thing to do because this car is going to require some maintenance. It's 1980 Corvette.
I mean, it's gonna one by one things are going to start failing, and you're going to have to replace it.
These are things. Things are going to start failing in addition to the stuff that fails on a Chevy, just as a matter of course.
Exactly.
Because typically, I would rather push a Ford than drive a Chevy.
Hey, did you hear that Ford has a new heated taillight package you can buy now? That's so your hands are warm as you're pushing the Ford.
I haven't heard that. It makes sense though. So normally,
so you said you'd rather what? Push a Ford than
push a Ford than drive a Chevy. But in this case, I'd make an exception. So our wives are both out of town. They have not heard this plan. Now I have asked Christy about the daily driver thing.
Right. This one.
And she very gently pointed out all the cons of buying a 1980 Corvette to be my daily driver.
And I'm not interested in the cons. Tell me about the pros, Cecil.
Well, the pros is it's a great car, and I haven't had a.
You got to make a convincing argument. Come on.
I haven't had a 350 since my Buick, and I love that 350 engine in the Buick.
Is it the same engine?
It's not the same engine.
Okay.
Well,
I bet
it might be very, very close. Yeah. So I miss having that 350. 350 drives very, very differently than anything I've driven since. Yeah. A lot of power, a lot of straight line power.
Right.
And the Corvette's the same way. I mean, you're going to want it, if you're really goosing it, you're going to want it to be going in a straight line. I don't think you're going to be doing a lot of turns.
No. But let's keep talking about the pros.
Yeah. So that was the biggest pro. It was a cool car.
It is a cool car.
So that idea has been broached. But now we start talking about maybe we should buy it together.
Right. And could our friendship withstand a Chevy in our lives?
Yeah. Because we both have project cars.
We do.
That need attention.
Right.
So this would be another project, even though this one is in better running condition, probably than either one of our project cars.
Combined.
Yeah. So that would be a pro, is that this would be drivable.
We think.
We'll know tomorrow.
Right. I mean, I think we can drive it. I don't know if we can we'll have to see if we can reliably drive it.
Well, we've only got 3 tires and a spare because one of the tires inexplicably exploded.
Spontaneously ruptured.
Yeah. So, and these are expensive tires, I've found out.
Now, you don't have to put that size on there.
No, but I kind of would want to put that size back on there. It's got a big, wide tire on it.
Yeah, it's a nice.
It's like a 255 60 15.
Yeah,
which is a pretty wide tire if you know what those numbers mean. So
it's a 10-inch wide tire.
Yeah, it's very wide, very expensive. So that would be another thing. The first thing you'd have to do if you bought it is put tires on it.
Yeah.
We bought it.
Or the other option you broached is a straight up trade.
Right. I could trade my Honda because he just needs a daily driver.
Yeah.
And I could have because I'm working from home now, I wouldn't need it a lot.
Yeah.
But when I did need it, I would really need to have a regular car.
Yeah.
Just occasionally I have to transport things, and I would not be able to transport anything in a Corvette other than another person. Yeah. Which your answer to that was just get the Ranchero truck running.
Exactly.
And just use it.
Use that. When you have to transport someone and something, that's what the Ranchero is for.
But then I'm going to be driving an old 3 on the trees straight in traffic.
So do it.
No, I can do it.
Do it.
But
you're making the sacrifice for the Corvette.
That's true. But the more evolved idea was to incorporate the podcast and have the podcast buy it.
Now that's what I'm thinking. But I don't.
then,
It's still money out of our pocket, Cecil.
right, we'd each have to go in half.
And it's still our time, which we still need to. We both have project cars, project houses,
Yes, project, yeah,
jobs, and families.
So we would incorporate the podcast, buy the Corvette, and then somehow or another come up with $3,000 to wrap it.
There we go. But then we could. I don't know what we do with it.
Then we could
besides driving around, take it to parades.
And then people would say, "What is that? That's a really cool car." It says, "That don't sound right."
It's
And we could say,
podcast.
"That's the podcast." We would have to. So we'd also have to buy. We have to get it registered. So that'd be a couple $100.
Yeah. And go ahead, keep going.
And we would have to get
Insurance.
yes.
Yeah. Now I don't know what the insurance of that would be. I imagine we might be getting into a collector car type of insurance policy.
Possibly.
Because I don't know. I have no idea how you replace that front clip.
Well,
It's one big fiberglass piece.
So if we don't put any collision on it, I mean, only have collision on it and no damage.
Right. But
That just means if it gets hit, it's just done.
it's out of our pocket.
It's out of our pocket. Well, it'd be done. It's fiberglass. If it gets hit, then there's nothing left.
Well, then is there a replacement part for it?
Well, that's the thing, is trying to find a replacement.
I bet you they make replicas.
But here's the thing. If it did get hit and you did have to replace the body on it, that Corvette chassis is what they usually build other replica cars on top of.
So then now you're talking about your Daytona Spider,
Right. The Daytona Spider.
Did they put that on
the
a
replica? Yep, is on a Corvette chassis.
This is the long game. Now I see what the long
I
game.
thought about it, though, that you could pull that body off and put a Daytona Spider body on it. So what we need is help. So our wives are going to hear this live, that we've even thought this far about it.
And really, this is where that don't sound right part of the episode comes in.
Absolutely.
That's what they're going to say when they hear this.
Right.
They're going to hear us saying, let's buy a Corvette together. They're going to say, that don't sound right.
They're going to realize that we've talked about this for the most of this weekend.
And that you've kind of been thinking about this a little bit longer than this weekend.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a few weeks. It's hard to drive by a house knowing a Corvette's sitting in it that's not being driven.
But Corvette has never really shown up on your list of
No.
desirable cars.
But I've just noticed over the years, if I go past a house that has a collectible car or a cool car that's not being driven,
Yeah.
I tend to want to get it out and drive it.
Well, there's a house that's on the way to your house from my house.
Yeah.
That had a Scout parked out.
I know.
Remember that?
This Scout aggravated you terribly because of what happened to it.
Well, he still has it.
Does it?
Oh, yeah. I stopped and talked to him.
Oh, good.
So
I'm glad you worked this out.
Oh, we did. So just so y'all know, there's a Scout that was parked out, really nice. It was a restoration, it appeared. And but it stayed parking there for a long time with a cover over it. Sometimes the cover would blow half off and it would just sit there. And then one day it disappeared. And in its place was this, early, maybe a 2010 model Chevy Tahoe. And I thought, you traded your Scout for a Tahoe? Are you kidding me? And so every time I went by that house, I kind of murmured underneath my breath, like, what were you thinking? Well, I saw the guy out in his driveway and I just had to stop.
Yeah.
And I had to stop and talk to him. And he kind of rolled his eyes because evidently a lot of people stopped and talked to him about the Scout.
Right.
But he still had it. He moved it off site. I think he parked it at a friend's or a family member's house. He moved it off site. He's had some running problems with it, but he moved it off site, A, to make room, and B, so people would stop hassling him because people would always stop and ask him to buy it.
Oh, I'm sure. It was a great
That was a good looking car. Yeah, I had the same experience, but now this is a little bit different, that it's a real possibility that you could take ownership of this Corvette.
I could take ownership of this Corvette. Financially, this would be like if this was going for $19,000.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be talking about it.
No, right.
But there's a price that's been floated that is doable. But again, so here's the options. I buy it straight up, and I just have another car sitting in my driveway.
Right. Which we might have some other discussions to be had, right?
Right. There may be some marriage counseling after that.
That's one option. Cecil buys it straight up for another project car.
Option number one.
Option number one.
Option number two is option number two is that I straight up trade 2004 Honda Accord for a 1980 Corvette
Daytona.
Then number 3 is we buy it under the podcast.
Or
we buy it together.
Or you and I buy it together.
And then we take turns driving it until our friendship dissolves.
Right. And then we sell it.
And then we sell it.
And then we take the proceeds and never talk to each other.
Both demit as elders and go to separate churches, never to speak to one another again.
Now, I guess the 4th option is that the podcast buys it.
Yes.
The podcast becomes incorporated.
Yeah. Our listeners send us a lot of money and we purchase it and wrap it. And it says, that don't sound right down the side.
Actually, if we went through the trouble of wrapping it and people did send us money, I will put their name on the wrap.
Oh, yeah. We could just cover it in the listeners' names.
I will put their, well, yeah.
I bet we could cover like half a fender that way.
I'll put you on the hood. I mean, in NASCAR, the hood is the prime real estate, right? I'll put y'all's name on the hood. Would y'all do that?
If y'all buy the Corvette for us, yeah, we'll put your name on it. You can come sign it. We could have our listeners sign it as we drove
sign the wrap.
Yeah. As we drove it around to different That Don't Sound Right events, we could have everybody just sign it. We could have, like I said, like half a fender to a fender covered almost instantly.
Easily.
All right. So this is y'all's task this week, is to either write and tell us that we have lost our minds.
Yep.
Which, I mean, this is we're way out on a limb at this point. We've gotten, and it's only getting worse because we're going to work on it tomorrow.
We are going to do it.
And then we're going to drive it. And
that could decide something for us instantaneously, right?
You'll lost their minds right there.
When I hear that 350 start up, it's going to bring back a lot of emotions.
Yeah. But then when you get out and drive it and the tires fall off, maybe you'll have a different one.
Maybe so. But
we'll see.
I mean, Peter, the rational thing to do is to get this thing back on the road and walk away from it.
Yes, that's right.
Is help the guy get it back on the road.
That's right.
And then we walk away from it. If you're snickering in the background tonight, that's Olivia who's being our barista. She's snickering at what we're talking about.
Because she had to sit in the car for about 30 minutes as we drooled over this Corvette.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for me to walk away once we start it. But that's the rational. I mean, we're both adults. We're both hold down jobs and have families. That is what we should do. That's right. What we should do.
That's what we should. Okay, I'm glad to hear you say that. That is also an option.
I
don't think we even mentioned that as an option.
That is what we should do.
That is an option, is to walk away.
We should walk away from it.
That we've helped a friend with some mechanical issues, and we walk away. Because I've got a Scout to work on.
Yeah.
You've got a Ranchero to work on. I mean, I was just in your carport.
Yeah.
You got the front left fender off.
I do. I was doing some suspension work.
I'm going home tonight to weld.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm going to be welding all weekend.
But I know that this is the closest I would get financially to this Corvette.
This is the closest I've ever gotten to a Corvette.
And the engine and the chassis. Because again, if you don't like the Corvette,
you're good. Put the kit car on there.
You could drop the kit car on.
Yeah.
I mean,
I haven't looked at
there.
I haven't looked at, but those kit kits are super expensive.
They can be super expensive. But
you'd rather spend any of that money. So here's my dilemma.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather spend any of that money that I'd put towards the Corvette. I think I'd rather spend it on the Scout.
Oh yeah, I'd rather get the Ranchero running
because that's my dream car. The Corvette's not my dream car.
True.
This running Scout, that's my dream car.
Yeah, I mean, my money's going to go toward the Ranchero. It's still, even with all that, this is still financially viable.
It's still tempting.
Yeah. So
even for a short term.
And if you're interested in buying it, we can put you in touch with the guy selling it.
That's true. Yeah. Again, go to our episode number 75 and 76 on the website specifically. There's pictures of the car on our website.
And we'll put some more up, hopefully this week if we get it running. Hopefully with us in it,
with a video
right down the road.
Video on Instagram.
We'll do some Instagram reels. We did an Instagram reel tonight, so go check it out.
Our first one, huh?
It was our first one.
You got high hopes for this Instagram reel in our listenership, huh?
Well, I switched this over to a professional Instagram account, and the hope is that views on Instagram will drive listeners toward the podcast.
Okay.
So we'll see how it happens. Well, y'all can help us.
That's true.
Go to our Instagram, follow us on Instagram, and repost us. That helps.
There we go.
All right. Well, it doesn't sound right, but you have come to the end of this very controversial episode that we will be in trouble for
Well,
Yes, it
I
is.
mean, really, it's only controversial at the Camel City studio and at the annex, and it's not even controversial yet until our wives hear this podcast because they're both out of town.
Now, if I did this the way my family did us acquiring a dog, the car would just be here when I got back.
Vengeance is a dish best served cold.
I just got back from a business trip and we had a dog. So
Yeah. So tell how'd that story go down?
I was headed for my flight in Tennessee, Nashville. I got a call saying, "Hey, we're going to look at a dog."
Oh, yeah.
Everybody looks at a dog.
Yeah.
They only buy a dog.
We're going to look at a Corvette
We're going to go look at Corvette. So we really
at a deep discount.
we could have the Corvette just in the driveway when everybody gets
Wouldn't
back.
that be something?
It would be something, all right.
I'm picking on my wife and my two daughters up at the airport. I wish I could fit them in the Corvette. How hilarious would that be?
Oh, that would be funny. Just pull up in the Corvette and say, "I can only take one of you at a time."
One at a time. I'll be back in 30 minutes.
Yeah. And then by the time you got back to Winston with each one of them, they would be completely convinced that the Corvette was the way to go.
Except for the last one who had to wait an hour and a half for to get the ride home.
Man, this plan is coming together.
Hey, before we close, we want to thank everyone for listening. We also want to thank you in advance for any advice you can give us about the Corvette. If this is your first time and you enjoyed the conversation, consider hitting the subscribe button on the platform you listen with and giving us some advice. If you're a longtime listener, give us some advice. Give us a rating, leave us a review so others can easily find us and join the conversation.
Or if you just want to finance this whole
That's true. That's true.
boondoggle
If you want to, we will incorporate that Don't Sound Right podcast and we will get your name on the car. You'll put your prime location on the hood.
That's right. All right. That Don't Sound Right is a production of TDSR Podcast in conjunction with Camel City Studios and Camel City Garage, which is recently opened.
That's right. Well, that's where we're going to be living if we're not careful.
We may be doing the podcast from the cockpit of the Corvette.
Well, it might be the Camel City doghouse is where we're going.
I'm your co-host and sound engineer, Cecil. Peter is your other host and your web designer. Camille's our barista, but Olivia's filling in tonight.
Thanks, Olivia.
Thank you, Olivia. Emily does our graphic design. Ella does our Instagram. Giorgio tests our merchandise. Brent is our international brand ambassador. And as always, listener number one is Scott. So until next week when we're in a Corvette, keep talking.
And stay curious.